It is Sunday, March 9th, 2025, and I am fairly certain at this point that I'm the only person in the world that hasn't tried, a AI based coding editor. I guess that's what Cursor is. So today I'm going to literally try it for the first time. I've never downloaded it before, I've never opened it before. I hear a lot about it from my friends and from colleagues, so I figured give it a shot, see kind of what happens. All right. The code editor, or the AI code editor, built to make you extraordinarily productive, Cursor is the best way to code with AI. All right. That makes sense, I think. So let's see what happens here. I'm going to click download and let me go ahead and install it and open it up. And by the way, the URL is just www.cursor.com. Okay, and here we are. So keyboard. Get to choose, a couple of different editors. Cool. All right. VS Code, language, English, Codebase, compute embeddings for Codebase wide questions. Cursor allows you to semantically index your code, which allows it to answer questions with the context of all your code, as well as write better code by referencing existing implementations. Code-based indexing is enabled by default, but can be turned off during onboarding or in the settings. Our code-based indexing feature works as follows. When enabled, it scans the folder that you open in Cursor and computes a Merkle tree of hashes of all files. Okay, got it. So it's like a scan in a sense. Cool. All right. Add terminal command. Launch from the terminal using code or cursor. Yeah, that makes sense. I use the code command, so that makes sense. All right, continue. VS Code extensions. Instantly import your existing extensions, settings, and key bindings from VS Code to make trying out Cursor simple. So this is interesting as well. From what I understand, and I can kind of visualize this on the screen right now, Cursor is built not as an extension of VS Code and not on top of VS Code, but maybe on top of VS Code is a good way of thinking about it. Cursor is kind of like a fork of VS Code in a sense, so that's why it looks very similar. All right, let's go ahead and use these extensions. It's going to pull the extensions from VS Code. All right. If you enable privacy mode, none of your questions or code will ever be stored by us or a third party. Yeah, so on one hand, your code goes towards training the model. On the other hand, it supposedly doesn't. Well, we shall see. All right. So to avoid abuse on our backend, we'll ask that you log in. I think that's fair. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this with Google. All right, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to use my personal email address. All right, here we are. What does the unlimited plan look like? All right, free includes pro 2-week trial, 2,000 completions, 50 slow premium requests, $20 a month, unlimited completions, 500. Okay, well, it makes sense. I mean, look, I can totally understand why there are paid versions of this. Training models is not cheap. It is certainly not free, and it requires a lot of data. So I get it. It makes sense. I'll pay for something like this if I continue to use it. All right, open a project. And this, okay, so what's really cool as well, I'm using the Cyberpunk theme on my on VS Code, and it looks like it imported that, which is really cool. All right, let's open up a project. Okay, I have opened up a project that I've been working on a lot recently. This is I've been building out an agent to talk to the Azure API for some like resource optimization stuff that I've been building out here. Okay, so that's cool. Plan, search, build anything. All right. So that chat box, I guess, is always there. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Because that's why you would be using it. So you can do it based on file, it seems like. Yeah. All right. So we click this add context. We can either choose files here, choose various folders. terminals. All right, fair enough. We have a couple of different options here for models. The default, I don't know what that is. I'm assuming it's something GPT related. But you can also see, you know, we got a couple different models here. And 4.5 just recently came out, so it's cool that it's already in Cursor. And yeah, I mean this looks exactly like VS Code, but I'm not in VS Code. Yeah, that's interesting. All right, so we have the cursor settings here, all the features, models that you can choose from. I guess you can. Oh, that's cool. So there are a ton of different models available, and then once you choose which ones you want to use, they'll pop up here, which is nice. Okay, so I want to close out of this, and then I'm going to start a brand new project. And I'm going to open up a blank tab here called AutoAdvisor. So I've been thinking about, you know, creating a new product in the automotive industry. So let's go ahead and play around with this. Okay, so finish onboarding, accept a tab. All right, so these are all the different things that you can do for the welcome. All right. So here's the files. Here's any type of search, source control, various extensions, which again, this is very clear that the backing of this is VS Code, which is awesome. So it's definitely a fork of VS Code. All right, plan, search, build anything. All right, we'll go off of, we'll keep the default, see how it is. And what I'm going to say is, because I don't really know exactly what I'm supposed to be asking. I know this requires a lot of prompt engineering, and it also requires you to like really know and understand what exactly you should be asking. And I don't really know yet. So let's kind of see how this works. I'm going to say, I want to create an automotive app that helps car dealerships know what is the exact right car for a person based on price, age, and what they are currently driving. Seems decent enough, right? I'll help you create an automated app or an automated recommendation app for car dealerships. Let's break this down. Create a modern web app that will help match customers with their ideal vehicles based on their current car, budget, and age. I'll create a full stack application with a clean, professional interface. First, let's set up the project structure and create the necessary files. I'll create a Next.js application with TypeScript for type safety and mono. Okay, well, actually, can we do this in Python instead? Absolutely, Python is a great choice. We'll create a Python-based application using Flask for the web framework and SQL Alchemy for a database. All right. Ask every time, auto run, YOLO mode. Nice. No, I'm okay. Just ask me. Ask nicely. All right, cool. So let's see what it's going to do. Now let's create a requirements.txt file with our dependencies. Let's create our main application file. All right, so we're going to start accepting some stuff. I'm going to accept that file. The models, I'll accept that. Flask import, it's using SQL Alchemy. Load environment variables. Config secret key. Oh, let's get secret key. Dev key, please change. Okay. Let's create our routes file with the main application logic. API vehicles. Methods, get vehicles, vehicle, query all. Now let's create a simple command line script to run the application. All right. README. So all said and done, I'm gonna accept all, and then we're gonna look at the files. I've created a complete Python-based automotive recommendation system. Here's what I've built: a Flask web application with SQL Alchemy, 3 main data models: vehicle, stores vehicle information; customer preference, stores customer details and preferences; recommendation, stores and tracks recommendations; key features, RESTful API endpoints, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Would you like me to add a web interface for easier interaction? Add more sophisticated matching criteria? Implement additional features like inventory analytics or customer tracking? Okay, so there's a couple things that I want to point out. Now, first things first, it did a lot for me, right? It pretty much it got the template ready for me. We have our primary interaction point. This is the file that we're going to be running. We have our models here. We have a couple classes: vehicle, customer preference, recommendation, right? Which, let's go over this. So the original question that I asked, right, if we go all the way up, I want to create an automotive app that helps car dealerships know what is the exact right car for a person based on price, age, and what they are currently driving. Now, I didn't give it a lot of information, so I imagine if I gave it a lot more information, I would have gotten some better output here. But really, the gist with this application is something like, instead of a salesperson having to, if anybody's ever, purchased a car, at least in the US, I'm sure it works the same way everywhere else. What happens is you walk in, you say, these are the numbers that I want, and this is the car that I want, or you don't really know what car you want, right? And then the whole process goes back and forth based on, what your credit score is, so the interest rate that you're going to get, what they're actually going to give you price-wise, right? Because, for example, in New Jersey at least, dealerships can put 2% on the bank interest rate. So if you get approved for 5%, they might put you in at 7%. So there are a lot of different moving factors in the car buying process in the automotive industry. So the goal of something like this is, make the salesperson's job a little bit easier, make the finance manager's job a little bit easier, the sales manager's job a little bit easier, because you'd be able to put in information like how old the person is, right? And based on how old the person is, that may indicate what they're thinking about buying, right? So like, for example, if you have somebody that's 70 or 75 and they just need a car to get around, well, maybe they want a Ford Escape or a Ford Explorer. But if it's a younger person, maybe like in their 20s or their 30s, and they're really interested in cars, maybe they might want to go with a Mustang. So these factors may help. And then it also would help based on what does this person do for a living? So if this person has a higher income, they could obviously probably afford a more expensive car, right? So like going back and forth and saying, well, what type of car do you need? What's your budget? Yada, yada. That's like what a lot of these salespeople do. They have to go back and forth and say, okay, what kind of car do you want? What type of budget do you want to be in, et cetera? And then they come up with a conclusion. But if they have this information prior to the person coming in, it may help them out a little bit. So this gives me a really good starting point in terms of, class vehicle. Like, I probably don't need this because this is actually what the output should be, right? Class, customer preference, recommendation. Like, this is something that we need, right? Based on the data that's coming in, right? So for example, the customer preference, that could be like exactly like I said, age, budget, current vehicle, et cetera, et cetera. No templates, nothing in static, nothing in models. That's totally fine. So this gives us, like I said, it gives us a decent starting point. And then we have our route. So this is going to be an API application, right? So get vehicles, vehicle, query all, return, blah, 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 right? Based on the recommendation, right? So again, I could probably get rid of this route, but everything else looks pretty good, right? I would just have to factor in some logic in terms of, how I want the application to actually interact with the salesperson. So now I'm going to ask, can you write me a front end for this backend application? I'll create a modern, user-friendly front end using Flask's templating system with HTML, CSS using Bootstrap, and JavaScript. I'll create templates that make it easy to manage inventory and get recommendations. First, let's create the necessary template structure. Let's update our routes to include the front end. Ooh, nice. Check that out. There's all the front end pieces there for all the API calls. Now it's going to generate the template. All right, here's the HTML for us. And as we can see under templates, we have our HTML, and then under static, we should hopefully have some CSS and JavaScript pretty soon here. All right, here's a little bit of HTML. I'm really interested to see what this is going to look like, primarily because I hate doing front end work. So this is actually pretty snazzy for me, at least. All right, let's update the routes pod to add and delete vehicle endpoints, creating a form page. All right, accept. Inventory management, recommendation form. The front end features modern responsive design using Bootstrap 5, interactive forms, dynamic content, clean and intuitive user interface, font awesome icons. All right, fair enough. So I think we're all good here. Let's see how this works. All right. I'm not in a virtual environment right now, so I gotta do the break system packages. Ooh, look at that. Mess up number 1. No matching distribution found for this version. So 141. See, 141 doesn't exist. So notice here, this is the only one, but that one actually doesn't exist. So we'll do 142. So this is something else we just kind of found here. Little low-hanging fruit things, but clearly there was a version that did not exist, but Cursor thought it existed. And now we're good to go. Now it's doing all the installation for us after I fixed that issue. So, this thing, it can generate a lot for you and it can do a lot for you. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have to go in and understand how to troubleshoot and what the error messages mean. All right, cool. Cancel. All right, Python run.py. I'm going to do Python 3.12 run.py. All right, looks like this thing is running. How do you get the chat back? Okay, I think it's Control L. Nope, Command L. There we go. All right, that's it. Command L. How to do a quick googly search there. All right, so let's open this up. Interesting. Get recommendations, view inventory, data-driven, make informed decisions based on customer preferences and vehicle specifications, customer-focused, personalized recommendations based on individual needs and preferences, smart matching. Our algorithm considers multiple factors to find the perfect vehicle match for each customer. Get recommendations. Find your perfect car match. 73. Budget 40. Current vehicle Honda Civic. Honda Civic, we'll say 2017. What kind of car I want? Sedan. Get recommendations. Nothing. Go to inventory. Nothing. All right. All right, so let's see. I ran the application, and when I filled out the form to get recommendations, no recommendations were returned. This issue is likely because there are no vehicles in the database to recommend. Let's add some sample vehicles to test the recommendation system. I'll modify the run.py file to include some initial data. Add sample vehicles. This will populate the database with some sample vehicles when you start the application. Now when you submit the recommendation form, you should, let's try this. Can you add all, let's see. Can you add all vehicles from Honda, Toyota, and Ford that were made from 2020 to now. I'll add a comprehensive list of popular Honda, Toyota, and Ford vehicles from 2020 to 2024. It's 2025. I should have put 2025. That's probably my bad. Look at that. It's even coming in with the safety rating and the fuel efficiency, but it's not accurate. I don't think they're not all 5 stars. Let's see if it changes that. Oh, it does change it. So maybe it is. Maybe it is. Yeah. Unless it's hallucinating right now. Because that's a lot of 5 stars. Okay. All right, cool. Apply all, accept files. So now, notice here in our run up high, we got a lot of stuff in here to throw into the database. Let's go ahead and refresh this. Check it out, see if it worked. Look at that. Wow, even tells me my miles per gallon. All right, get recommendation. 72, budget, 35,000. Current vehicle, make Honda Civic 2017. And I want an SUV. I want a truck. I don't think there's a truck in this budget for 35,000. Let's see. See? There's the so actually, let's try this. 100,000. So here is where AI could fall short from this perspective. Notice how it's pulling the recommendation based on my current car, right? It's not pulling it based on what I actually want. So if I said no preference, let's see what happens. See? Sports car. Nothing. So let's maybe do this. Can you add all BMWs from 2020 to 2025 to the list of vehicles? 2025 models aren't all released yet. That's a lie. It must be pulling data from 2024. Maybe if I change the default model being used. All right, beautiful. Got a bunch of BMWs in here as well, but like, so for example, from a sport perspective, they only have M3s, no M4s or M2s or M8 comps. So, you know, it's the reason why I'm doing this, I'm testing this out, is because it is adding things in here for us, right? But it's not doing exactly what we need. We're still going to need to think about it from a design perspective. So like, for example, it says Ford Mustang, but what Mustang? EcoBoost, GT, GT Premium, Dark Horse, Shelby. There are a lot of different models, right? And maybe I need to prompt it a little bit better, but like for example, even this data, this isn't right. There's no Mustang currently that's priced at 30,000. So it's definitely making some of this stuff up as it goes, right? So you're going to need to know, the point is you're still going to need to know what you're trying to build, right? Like it could put in the logic for you, like all this stuff in terms of like the API calls, this is all accurate, but the actual data that needs to be fed in is not. So point being is you still need to know what you're doing, which is good. So again, if we try this, right, it's still not, you know, it's still not going to bring down 72. Let's just do this, right? Sports car. See, it's cached that I already had, you know, current vehicle make in here. And if we go back to run, There is absolutely no M3 that's 76,000 or 67,000. So we're still going to have to think about this from a design perspective. We're going to have to put in the right data. The shell of the program is built for us, but we still have a lot of logic that we have to implement in here. All right. And maybe Cursor can help us out with that, which is great if we ask it, and we can get some recommendations. But all in all, you're still going to have to know what you're doing as an engineer.